And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us. And one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it. And that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon Wright. Tonight's episode, we're going to be joined by my guest, L.A. Marzulli. Some of you guys may know him from the documentaries and books he's written. Been looking forward to talking with him. But before we bring him on, if you want to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, I need you to send me an email at tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to the website, tinfoiltales.com, and go to the contact section. Either way works for me. Just make sure you get it to me. We'll get something scheduled for a future episode. If you want to help the podcast out, please continue to share it around. Word of mouth is the best way to help the podcast grow. If you want to help, leave a 5-star rating and review. If you write out a review, I'll make sure to try and read it on a future episode and give you guys a shout out for that. They do help with the rankings and making the podcast more discoverable. So anyone that does that, just know I'm thankful and I appreciate you guys. You want to become a foil fanatic, you can join the Patreon. You get early access to all of the episodes right after they're recorded, and they're all ad-free. Plus, there is some exclusive content on there. Episodes only available on the Patreon. It's only $1.99 a month, so less than a bottle of pop. So if that's something that sounds like you'd be interested in, just go over to the Patreon. Show notes has the link for that too. I will be appearing at several different conventions this year, doing some vendoring. I'll be at Bigfoots and Brews and Spirits 2, September 14th, Wadjack, Michigan, at the Sister Lakes Brewing Company. I'll also be at the first annual Indiana Bigfoot Conference, September 27th and 28th, down in Nashville, Indiana, for the Bigfoot Conference. I'll be here in my hometown for ParaUnity 6 on October 19th, 4-H Fairgrounds, here in Miami County, Indiana. And then to round it out, October 26th, I'll be in Crawfordsville, Indiana for the Paranormal Convention they've got going on there as well. So if any of those sound appealing and you're around the Indiana, Michigan area, make sure to come check those out. Make sure to follow me on social media. You can add Brandon Tinfoil Tales on Facebook. There's also the Tinfoil Tales page. On Instagram, there's a Tinfoil Tales page. There's an X. Give me a follow. I'm most active on Facebook, so add Brandon Tinfoil Tales. You can chat with me on there. Get stuff scheduled that way too. We're going to go ahead now and bring LA on. Like I said earlier, I'm looking forward to talking with him. Hope you guys enjoy the conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'd like to take the time to welcome my guest tonight, L.A. Marzulli. Thank you for coming on here talking with me.
It's good to be here. Looking forward to seeing where we're going to go and what we're going to discuss, and all things are good. Let's do it.
You want to let the audience know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've written 13 and a half books and produced, directed, or hosted. I've hosted 30 films, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I produced and directed about half of that with my late business partner, Richard Shaw. We did 11 films together. My new business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and I have done like about 8 films together. And then I did 7 or 8 on my own. So, I'm constantly out there putting stuff out, lots of content. My YouTube channel does a show Monday through Friday. On the Trail of a Nephilim, UFO update. Sometimes we'll do questions with LA. Other times we'll do On the Trail of a Nephilim. So it's a broad range of topics, but definitely it has to do with the supernatural world. And that's, of course, is what I believe.
What made you go down this path? Was there something that stood out that kind of put you on this path you're on now?
Yeah, I mean, I saw two UFO. Well, I saw my first UFO as a kid at 12 years old. I was raised Catholic. I left the Catholic Church at 13. The Beatles were out. Eastern mysticism came in fact, the greatest amount of occult literature came in during that time to the West, along with the concept of reincarnation and everything that goes with it. So I was, from 13 to 30, I was diehard New Age. I lived in an ashram for 3 years. My third eye was open by a guru. I mean, I was deep, deep, deep into it. At 30, I had a Paul on the Road to Damascus type experience, and that's when I asked Jesus to come in my heart. I had no idea really what I was doing other than that nothing was working. So if you're real, come into my heart and change it. And lo and behold, nothing happened then. But about a month later, all hell broke loose. And that was the beginning of 3 years of being in what I would call a spiritual boot camp, because that's exactly what it was. Very intense, ongoing, lots of demonic attack. It was no picnic. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but it's produced what I do today. They were from 30 to 40 years old. I was a worship leader. I was in church all the time. I was a student of the Bible, still am, and constantly probing and looking and understanding. Well, at 40 years old, I read a book by Dr. I.D.E. Thomas. That book changed my life. It's called The Omega Conspiracy. And there were problems I had with the biblical prophetic narrative. And that was, what's this flood of Noah? Why is he confusing the languages at Babel? Why does he destroy, I got sand in my hair, so forgive me. Why does he destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? For what's going on here? Finally, the mandate comes out from this, capricious, maniacal, genocidal God of the Old Testament to wipe everybody out in the promised land. Wait a minute. I'm not down and jiggy with that at all. I have huge problems with all of that. No one can answer them. And so 10 years go by. I'm now 40. I pick up this book by Dr. I.D.E. Thomas called The Omega Conspiracy. That book changed my life. That book set me on the path I've been on ever since, because Dr. I.D.E. Thomas talks about the seed war, talks about the Nephilim, talks about what happened in all those troubling biblical passages, the flood of Noah, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, the confusing of the tongues at Babel, finally the conquest of the Holy Land. And then it gets even deeper. Who is the Antichrist? He's the seed of the dragon. He's the offspring of the dragon. He doesn't become the Antichrist, in my opinion. He is literally the offspring. He's a hybrid. He's essentially a Nephilim. That's what I think he is.
Now that kind of goes into some of the things I've talked to with some others here recently when it comes to Nephilim and everything else. Like, I deal with a lot of stuff with people having seen like strange creatures, cryptids, whatever else. And a lot of people believe that these weird, even aliens to an extent, are offshoots of Nephilim. You kind of think that too?
Let's walk through it. We know from the Genesis 3:15 narrative that the seed, the offspring of the dragon, will be at war, at offspring with the woman. That's what it says. It's very, very plain. 3 chapters later, in the flood of Noah, we get the introduction of the Nephilim. The Nephilim are the progeny, the offspring of fallen angelic hosts, fallen angels, the Watchers, a class of fallen angels, and human women, creating a hybrid known as the Nephilim. When they're destroyed in the flood, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim become the demons that are earthbound and wander the earth. A demon is not a fallen angel. A demon needs something, either a person or an object or an animal, to possess. The Greys are biological avatars, meat suits. So the demons, the disembodied spirits, can inhabit the Grey, the avatar, the biological suit, and then manifest in this dimension. How do I know that? I've got witnesses.
I talked with some other people before that did say that they thought Greys were demons. A lot of people think that aliens are demonic. And so I don't know anything. I'm a guy with a microphone. So I don't try and prove or disprove anybody, but I like to hear about it, and I like researching and find out more stuff about it. So I've never seen an alien. So
And you
I've
don't
like,
want to.
so there's like a lot of things out there. Like I remain somewhat skeptical about a lot of things. And it's not that I'm approve or disprove, but like I keep an open mind to a lot of things. So I just take it at face value, I guess. I don't, like I said, I'm not out here trying to prove or disprove whatever. But now, when it comes to your recent book and your movies and everything else you had, you said it was into like Roswell and stuff. What is the connection you feel from UFOs, like the things that are going on now in modern times, to like with the Nephilim and everything, like what these crafts and everything? How's that all connected?
Everything is sourced from the dark side. There's a nefarious agenda.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm speaking at a New Age conference, I'll look out at the crowd and go, "How many of you in this audience think it's okay to kidnap a 5-year-old boy, take him aboard a ship, and implant him? How many of you think is that okay? Anybody?" Never a hand goes up. Never a hand goes up. And the reason for this is everyone knows it's not okay. But somehow, even with that, the opening statement, they still give a pass. Well, their ways aren't our ways. They know more than we do. And we just have to go. Maybe they're looking out for us and blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. You just told me before we even started the lecture that it's not okay to kidnap a 5-year-old boy and implant him. By the way, that was Emil. He was Emil Jurek. He was kidnapped by them, taken, abducted by them, and implanted at 5 years old. 40 years later, we took the implant out. We're one of the few people on the planet to ever do that. My late business partner, Richard Shaw, and I, and the late Dr. Roger Lear, we took the implant out. How many people can say that? How many people can even talk about that? We were there. We took it out. There was a whole protocol that Dr. Roger Lear used when he was alive. And we followed that protocol all the way down the line till we were in the operating room. And then high strangeness happened. We could no longer find the implant. It was like it was vanished. So I pray. I'm a spirit-filled man. You know, I walk in the spirit. That's where I spend my time. Now, I'm also a sinner saved by grace. So I'm nothing, but he's got everything. And so I got a little tap on the shoulder from my spirit guide, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of the living God. And the Lord said, you need to take authority over this and do it now. I'm in a room full of unbelievers except for Richard Shaw. And I go, okay, here's the deal. Father, I say to the people in the room, there's about 10 people in the room. And I go, okay, this might sound really weird, but I'm going to pray and I'm going to do it now. And my prayer was very simple. Father, if there are forces which are cloaking this device, I pray that you would break their power and do it soon. All of this is on film. So I'm not making this up. It's all on film. Guess what? A minute, 2 minutes later, the implant comes back like this up into the front. And everybody goes, my gosh, what's that? Dr. Matriciano goes, my gosh, that's the implant. And he's looking at the wand from the ultrasound, and he's like tapping it, looking at it. He can't figure out why all of a sudden his ultrasound machine is working. For an hour and 20 minutes, it didn't work. We couldn't find the implant. And he took an x-ray, and we had found it in the pre-op in like less than 2 minutes. Here's the x-ray, put the X on. Oh, there it is right there. Bam. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll take it out. 2 weeks go by, we're there, and as I just stated, couldn't find it. One prayer changes everything. Why? Because greater is he that is in us, that believe in him. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And the Lord showed up. Now, did he send his angels? More than likely. Did he stop the nonsense? Absolutely. And we've seen this before. They love messing with electronics. That's what they do. And these are interdimensional entities. They're not extraterrestrials, in my opinion, from, Epsilon Eridani or Zeta Reticuli. They lie. They do so habitually. They are, as Jacques Vallée would say, messengers of deception. I mean, that's how the game is played. There's a nefarious agenda. There's a breeding program. We've got 8 films out on the UFO phenomena. 2 more, What is the Truth, will be out the end of April. It is a deep dive, everything from Close Encounters of the First Kind to experts weighing in, who are like Preston Dennett, who's written numerous books on the subject, like Francisco Carrera, who's head of Exopolitics Portugal. Number 3 is based on lots of people, Close Encounters of the First, Second, Third, Fourth Kind. And then number 4 in the series is on abductions. That's where we sit down with 2 women, 2 men. All 4 people have been taken, some of them numerous times. So Emil and Karen and Al Matthews were taken numerous times from the time they were 5 until they got free by becoming a born-again, spirit-filled Christian. Because there is something, in my opinion, that does stop the abductions, and that's the name of Jesus. How do I know that? Because too many people have come forward telling me exactly that. So we're not talking religion here. We're not. We're talking spiritual warfare. We're so far outside the church, it's ridiculous. I'm part of a church. I love the church. But unfortunately, the church, for the most part, is asleep and doesn't know how to deal with any of this stuff, but it's real. And the tentpole for number 4 is Karen Wilkinson. We published her book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. She was impregnated 3 times by these guys. They come in the 3rd month of the pregnancy. They take that fetus out of her. They take that hybrid, modern day Nephilim, out of her. How do we know this? It says in Daniel chapter 2, verse 43, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Whose seed are we talking about? Their seed will mingle with the seed of men. Well, it's not men. So who is it? Only there's one people, and that's the fallen ones. Jesus warns us it'll be like the days of Noah when he returns. What differentiates those days is the presence of the fallen angels. And guess what? They're here, and they're doing exactly what they did thousands of years ago. There is a breeding program. Karen was impregnated 3 times by these guys, and each time they took the child. So number 5 in the series is on crop circles. We call it The Secret Language of the Dragon. Number 6 is the darkest film I've ever worked on. It's on cattle mutilations. And what we posited, and I believe we're the first group of researchers ever to connect the dots. I could be wrong. That's my caveat. But as far as I know, we're the first people. You take that baby from Karen. You take it in the 3rd month of her pregnancy. That baby, that hybrid entity, needs to go into some artificial womb to survive, to come into fullness. It can't live outside the womb. There's no way. Cattle mutilations, the blood from a cow can be used in human transfusions. The parts that are taken from the cow, in our opinion, are used to create an artificial womb. Bovine blood can be used in transfusion. They create an artificial womb. They take that baby, take that hybrid, that modern day Nephilim, put it into an artificial womb. We've had experiencers talk about the artificial wombs on board the ships. Why does it not surprise me? Because we're told by Jesus prophetically 2,000 years ago, it'll be like the days of Noah when the Son of Man returns. Guess what? Brandon, we're here. We are here, and we're firing on all 8 cylinders. This whole thing is, we're living in a very charged, unsettling, unprecedented window of time, and it's not going to go on too much longer, in my opinion.
What do you think I know you said they're making like modern day Nephilim. What are they doing with them?
Well, it's a breeding program.
But what are they breeding them for? Like,
The
what
war.
is
Satan's outnumbered. The dragon's outnumbered 2-1. He's outnumbered 2-1. He's breeding an army. Because in his hubris, he thinks that somehow he can pull victory from defeat. We know from Genesis 3:15, thousands and thousands of years ago, that Adam and Eve are here, the dragon's over here, the pre-incarnate Christ is in the middle. And he turns to the dragon and he goes, your seed, your offspring, will be at war, at enmity with the offspring of the woman. The proto-evangelion, the Messiah, will come and crush your head. That's the first prophecy in the Bible. So the dragon's going like, somebody's going to come and this is the Son of God that's telling me this. So finally, Abraham is tapped out thousands of years later. From your seed, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. That's prophecy. But you're going to go down to Egypt for 400 years until the sin of the Amorites comes into its fullness. Amorites are a Nephilim tribe. Amorites, when Joshua and Caleb came into the promised land, the Amorites just fled all throughout the Mediterranean and wound up in the New World, in my opinion. So you've got this line in the sand. Someone's coming to crush the dragon, to take his kingdom from him. So when Jesus is born, the dragon knows where it's coming from and who it is. So he's all over this. What he doesn't get is the way it's going to happen, because the dragon's thinking to himself that, well, you can't kill God now, can you? God can't die, can he? Right? How can you kill God?
Mm-hmm.
This is so cosmic, Brandon. It's the most cosmic thing ever, because Colossians tells us this, a book in the New Testament. He is the head of the church. He is the head of the church, head of the body of the church. He is the head of the body of the church. Okay, he's the head. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he may be preeminent in all things. For in him, Jesus, the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile to himself all things on earth and in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. If the dragon knew that God was actually going to die, he never would have allowed it, because that crushes the dragon's head. That's how, checkmate. The cross is everything. The body is in the tomb for 3 days. The spirit and the soul go down to Tartarus, the deep, darkest dungeons where the fallen angels are being kept since the time of the flood. And this is where Jesus goes, not getting out. Checkmate, game over. I just won. I've just crushed the dragon's head. He goes back into the tomb, and then we get this. That's the Shroud of Turin. That's what he looks like. He's still in repose there. He's still dead. He's not alive. That's the body in the shroud, wrapped in the shroud. And that is not a photo. This is what's amazing about it. That this picture right here, you can see the scourge marks, the thorns, the eyes are closed. He's in repose. He's in rigor mortis. And that when that soul and spirit come back into the body, that's the firstborn of the dead right there. He's preeminent in all things. It's the most cosmic event in all of history. Absolutely beyond cosmic, because God died. And how do you do that? And that's why the dragon loses, because he can't figure out, how's this going to work? You can't kill God, can you? But that's exactly what happens. So instead of showing up in power, the Lord shows up in absolute humility and allows himself to be separated from his Father and to die. We are talking something that's way beyond my pay grade. It is so flipping cosmic that it's hard to get your head around it. And it took me about a year to really grasp it. What was at stake? What happened? Because it's mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-blowing.
I'm not much into a religious person in general. Like, I know the stories and I know the Bible and some certain things about it, but like, I'm not a devout Christian or anything like that. I'm not atheist or anything like that either. I have my beliefs, but it's like, I'm not a church going person. But I do believe that there's definitely weird things going on. I can't for sure say what it is or not, but I feel like there's a lot of evil in the world.
There is.
And I feel like it's just getting worse. The more you look around, everything going on, there is a lot of evil going on, and I feel like there's manipulation to make the evil going on. And I don't know how else to say it other than like, I just feel like we are heading towards something. And I don't know how to get away from it. I don't think we can. Like at this point, like we're almost to an extent of let's wait and see. But there's a lot of weird activity going on, especially now lately with these UAPs that they're talking about. And it's just a very weird time, I feel like.
It is, and I concur. It's a time that, in my opinion, is completely unprecedented in all of history. We are living in a window of time that is unprecedented. There's nothing that compares to it. Everything that we know is being pulled apart, and done so deliberately by the powers that be. And we are headed into a one world government, no doubt about that, a cashless society. The place to watch is Israel. Why? Because Israel holds all the prophecies in the latter days. Everything, it's called the time of Jacob's trouble, the 7-year period that God deals with the nation of Israel. And this is, I think we're in day 168 or 169 of the war. You can't find anything on it. The special sites that were on YouTube have been hacked. They're down, so you can't even watch what Israelis are putting up on YouTube. They've been completely hacked. They're no longer there. I used to go to Raptor News 2 or 3 times a day to make sure I'm not missing any updates. It's gone, completely taken down, totally taken down. So it's like the prophecies regarding Israel. First of all, I will regather you from the 4 corners of the earth and reestablish you in your ancient homeland. Well, 2,000 years of diaspora. Name me any other country on the planet, any other people group on the planet that could be disposed from their homeland for 2,000 years and yet come back. It doesn't exist in all of history. So someone is outside space-time as we know it and is calling out the future with great specificity, unlike the fuzzy quatrains that we get from Nostradamus. Great specificity. In the latter days, I will regather you from the 4 corners of the earth and reestablish you in your ancient homeland, never to be removed again. So what do you do with that? Now the ball's in your court, Brandon.
No.
I mean, that's prophecy that was written thousands of years ago that came about and was fulfilled from 1917 to 1948 when Israel becomes a nation.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one. That's just one prophecy. Here's another one from Daniel. Okay. Seal up the words of his book, Daniel. Men will run to and fro over the face of the earth, and knowledge will increase. Guess what? That book is unsealed. Why? Because as we're speaking, men and women are running to and fro over the face of the earth. Unprecedented. Knowledge increases exponentially every 6 months. Unprecedented time. Know this, in the last days, perilous times will come. 2,000-year-old prophecy. Men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, blasphemous, boastful, and it goes on. Having a form of religion but denying its power. It's exactly where we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I could sit there and quote prophecies to you all day long. The thing that once you know about them, then you have to decide, where's this stuff coming from? It seems to me that someone is outside space-time as we know it and can call out these prophecies with great specificity. And you now your audience, and you have to deal with that. You're going to be held accountable to that. Because I just told you that this is written thousands of years ago, and now it's happening. Now it's happening. There's another prophecy which we call Ezekiel 38. It's from the prophet Ezekiel. It's the 38th chapter. When you read Ezekiel 38 and 39, the 3 leading nations in that confederacy to go up against a land of unwalled villages. Let's start there. Thousands of years ago, when that prophecy is written, there's no such thing as a land of unwalled villages. 2,500 years ago, no such thing as a land of unwalled villages, because if you had a village, you built the biggest, highest wall you could possibly around it. A city with walls. It's just like Lord of the Rings. It's exactly, you had to do this. But with the advent of the airplane, all that became obsolete because you could build a wall a half a mile high. All we need to do is fly over it, drop a bomb. So it becomes obsolete. Israel now is a land of unwalled villages. That prophecy was written 2,500 years ago. 2,500 years ago, there was no such thing as a land of unwalled villages. The 3 leading nations that go up against a land of unwalled villages, i.e. Israel, are Russia, Turkey, and Iran. And there's a picture I show just recently. Putin, Erdogan from Turkey, and Raisi, for the president of Iran, all on the same stage together. Unprecedented. So it's forming.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right, you know something's up. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm here telling you what's up, and that all this was prophesied thousands of years ago in the guidebook to the supernatural, which most people know as the Bible. But what it really is a guidebook to the supernatural. But it takes time to plumb the depths of it and understand what's written.
I've always kind of wondered, I know it's as weird to say, but like in the Bible, I was always under the impression like the Jewish people of Israel, They are God's chosen people. And with Christianity, they don't believe in Christ. So to me, it's always kind of like they're the chosen people, but they don't believe in the Son of God. So,
They're the chosen people because from them Messiah came.
mhm.
Jesus was from the tribe of Judah. He's a Jew. He's not a half-breed, he's a Jew, completely Jewish, from the tribe of Judah. That's why the genealogy from Joseph and Mary, boom, 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 right down. It's very important. There's a prophecy. Here we go again with that word. There's a prophecy regarding Israel. It's for the latter days. It's for the end of days. They, who were they, the children of Israel, they will look on him whom they have pierced and mourn for him as an only son. They will look on him whom they have pierced and mourn for him as an only son. We celebrated yesterday Palm Sunday, and the meaning of it is completely lost for the most part. So let me just weigh in here. It's the only time in Jesus' entire ministry, and I owe this to Chuck Missler, but Missler got it from other people, but it's okay. It's the only time in Jesus's, 3.5 years of ministry where he arranges something. He tells his disciples, he sends two of his disciples into the city of Jerusalem. He says, go in and you're going to see a cult that's never been written. Take the cult, and when the owner of the cult comes out and says, hey, what are you guys doing? Just tell him the master has need of it, which is crazy. So in modern day vernacular, that's like Jesus telling me and you, guys, you're going to go into Los Angeles on 2nd Street, and you're going to see a brand new Lexus with the keys in it, and the motor's still running. Just hop in the front seat and take it. The owner's going to come out of a 7-Eleven and go, hey, what are you guys doing? Just tell him the master has need of it. He's going to go, oh, okay, no worries. Take my Lexus and go. That's how crazy that is.
Yeah.
So the disciples go and they do it. They take the colt, and Jesus comes in. He rides on the colt. They spread the palms. They throw the clothes down. Right after that, he says this, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I would have gathered you as a hen gathers her chicks, but you did not know the day of your visitation. What does that mean? Jesus is holding the entire nation of Israel accountable to know the prophecies of Daniel that says this, from the time of the decree to rebuild the temple, because the temple 400 and whatever, so many years, 490 years before Jesus rides in, there is no temple. It's been completely destroyed. And the Jews are dispersed. But then Nehemiah comes in and he starts, the walls, and he starts rebuilding the temple, and the rest is history. So the prophecy is this, from the time that the decree goes out to rebuild the temple until Shiloh, Messiah, until Messiah comes, will be 70 times 7, 490 years. That decree is in the British Museum. It was done by Cyrus the king to rebuild the city in Jerusalem. Once that decree is issued, you just have to count 490 years. Jesus rides in. See, all this is missing. Most people have no idea what Palm Sunday is. Jesus rides in to Jerusalem, fulfilling that prophecy, and also, behold, your king is coming to you lowly, riding on a donkey. I mean, there's multiple prophecies going on here. And in this little window, this little time span, he comes riding in at the precise moment that fulfills the 490 years to the second. The Jews don't get it, because this is why he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I would have gathered you as a hen gathers her chicks, but you did not know the day of your visitation. So he wasn't the Messiah. Well, if he wasn't the Messiah, then where is he? So the Jews are still waiting for the Messiah. But there's also a lot of Messianic Jews who realize that Yeshua, his real name in Hebrew, Yeshua, was the Messiah. So there's some that get it, but most of them don't. And then there's the prophecy future. They will look on him. This is the second coming. They will look on him whom they have pierced. Why? Because when he's getting crucified, they say, your blood be on us and upon our children's children. They basically call down a curse upon their whole nation. They call down a curse, and that curse is there. So this is, Brandon, this isn't, we're talking here, we've been on for, half an hour or whatever. This stuff is so deep and so flipping cosmic. And we're not talking religion because, you're not going to hear this stuff in church. You're just not. Maybe you'll hear something about what Palm Sunday's about. Most of the time you don't. You get your little palm branch at the door and you sit down and, it's just, it's not, I don't go anymore because most churches don't believe in prophecy. Most churches are amillennial. They don't believe in a literal 1,000-year millennial reign. Most churches don't believe that he's coming back. And most people don't believe in the rapture of the church. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall not die. That whole deal. We shall be caught up in the air. I mean, so, what do you want to believe? And this is why the whole thing is just so, it's become so enervated. It's been so watered down that another prophecy, you'll have in the latter days, they'll have a form of religion, but deny its power. That's where we are.
I interviewed someone the other night, and I forget the exact term, but basically like the 1,000 years, the tribulations or whatever. He thinks we're in the time of the tribulation now or after those 1,000 years.
We're not. We're not in the tribulation, in my opinion, because the tribulation is not for the church. The 7-year tribulation deals with the nation of Israel. So in order to deal with the nation of Israel, you've got to have the nation of Israel. So you go back before the 1900s, there is no nation of Israel, is there? So you can't possibly be in the tribulation. So now the nation of Israel is there, but the church is still here, and we're not appointed to wrath. We're not appointed to the 7-year tribulation. The tribulation is the wrath of the Almighty God coming down, and it's a legal indictment. And you say, well, what have we done so bad? How about the 1 billion aborted babies? 1 billion. You know what that looks like? If you went from the Arctic Circle in the North Pole to Tierra del Fuego in South America, all through Canada, Alaska, America, Mexico, all through Central America, all down through Peru and Argentina and the whole thing, you wouldn't see one person. That's 1 billion people. You wouldn't see one person, not one. That's 1 billion. The blood of the innocent cries out. That's an unprecedented event in all of human history. In all of human history. 1 billion with a B, unprecedented. And that blood creates the doorways and the gateways and the portals for all this junk coming in, for Dogman, for Sasquatch, for the shapeshifters, the whole deal, the skinwalkers. That's where it's all coming from.
It's basically like the energy from that, the negativity, the evilness, it's all breeding into these creatures that are now popping in and out of our reality.
Popping in and out. That's what they do. Pop in and out.
Now that's never thought about it in that sense.
Most people don't.
Like the whole interdimensional thing. It's when I started this podcast, I thought a Bigfoot was just supposed to be like a monkey man, a walking undisclosed primate. And the more I started looking into things, and it's like the term interdimensional gets thrown around so much lately for all these things. But then you start diving into it, and it's almost like I see why it gets thrown around. It kind of lines up. It makes more sense than it's just to think that there's a undiscovered 10-foot tall primate walking through the woods. It doesn't, none of that adds up. So, and then with all the other stuff that people see, even with aliens and this and that, I've said this week I was at 2 different UFO meetings here in Indiana in different locations. They wanted me to be a guest speaker, and I've told them that I think all of this stuff is connected. And some people don't know what that means. Like, your paranormal side, your UFO side, your cryptid side, all of the stuff is connected.
It
It's
is
all from the same thing.
source. It is. I agree completely. Good for you, Brandon.
Like
You yeah, good for you.
that's the only thing that makes sense to me is that it's all connected.
It's
And
all connected. It's all from the dark side. It's all from the pit of hell. It's all from the fallen angel, who's trying to create an army because he's outnumbered 2-1. He's and I got there's also a prophecy that says the beasts of the earth are loosed upon humanity. That's Sasquatch.
mhm.
They can pop in and they can pop out, and we know that they've been breeding like crazy. This isn't Gimli Patterson decades ago when I was a kid. I'm 73. This isn't Gimli Patterson film. Now they pop up all over the place and they're manifesting, and more people are seeing them. So we are in a window of time. You stated it. That is unprecedented. It's ramping up, and prophecy in the biblical prophetic narrative in the guidebook of the supernatural tells us a priori exactly what's going on. That's why I'm not surprised. I'm not caught off guard in the least, because all this is just going to ramp up, and it's ramping up. I mean, it is ramping up as we speak. No doubt about it.
I know just from what I do with this podcast with interviewing people, and there is a lot of sightings of weird stuff, and I've seen my own fair share of weird things. And the only way to describe it is not everyone's crazy. Like the concept of my show, the name of it, everything is kind of like poking fun at the stigma of what people call people to see things or see UFOs or whatever. Like, and not everyone can be completely crazy. Like they're seeing what they're seeing, and there's a very large uptick of weird stuff happening. And the only thing I think is like we're in a very weird time.
And you know it. All I'm trying to do is get you to crack open blow some of the dust off that book. The problem is there's a key to the book. So if you read it right now and you're not spirit filled, you're not going to understand what you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's problematic, because I tried to read it and it was just like Chuck. But the moment a man or a woman becomes spirit filled, then everything begins to change. It happened to me 44 years ago. And I'm not the same man that I was. I'm not perfect. I never will be. I limp along. I walk with a limp. I don't mean that literally. I walk with a limp. I'm a sinner saved by grace. But I know now so much more than I did 44 years ago, because I'm a student of this, ongoing student of it. And all you do, and you could probably say, oh my gosh, is he going to lead me to Jesus? Is this a come to Jesus moment? Yeah, it is in some ways. You ask. For your listeners out there, I was alone in my room. I was reading a book by Dave Hunt, The Cult Explosion. And at the end, there's a little prayer. And I just asked. And nothing happened. And then a month later, everything happened. That's 44 years ago. There's only 2 prerequisites, Brandon. This is how you do it. There's only 2 prerequisites. Number 1, you believe on him who was sent. You believe in him. You go, okay. And you believe that he died for our sins. All the little stuff that you do, that I do, that everybody listening to this program, that's it. If it was any simpler, we couldn't do it. That's all it is. You ask him in. You ask him in. You believe on him who was sent, that's Jesus, and you believe that he died, rose again for our sins, because that's what happened. He paid the price. He became death for us, which is just cosmic. It's unbelievable. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days can go by, or a week, or you can feel the presence of the Lord, or you may have a dream, or he may actually speak to you, which he will do. And I'm not the only one this has happened to. And life changes. And all of a sudden, the paradigm shifts. Look, I was in the New Age. Okay, I was with a guru. My third eye was open. I believed in, the Space Brothers. I mean, I was down and jiggy, Mr. New Age, right here. I lived in the ashram for 3 years, for crying out loud. I had spirit guides. I did peyote quests. I was at Woodstock and I inhaled as deeply as possible. I went as deep as you can go. I was living it. And then I became agnostic because nothing was working. I was still the same schmuck I always was. And it would be another 3 or 4 years before, at the ripe age of 30 years old, I would say that little goofy prayer. And all I said was, if you're real, come into my life and change it. And he did. So, but see, he won't do it until he's asked. You got to ask. Is LA leading Brandon to the Lord? Yeah, basically, but it's your choice, and you don't have to do anything now. There's no pressure here, but maybe we'll go offline, whatever.
I was raised in a Pentecostal church, so I understand the concept. Like, I went to church for a majority of my childhood. My parents still go. Most of my family still go to church. The church itself, like I said, I don't have anything against religion. It's the church, and as bad as it's the people. Because I feel like the people that go to these churches are one of the worst type of people because they're hypocrites. They go out and sin, do all the stupid stuff, and then they go to church and ask for forgiveness on Sunday, then go back and continue to live the sinful lives they live. It's like and they're the most judgmental people.
Some of them can be. I think you're painting with a broad brush. I do agree with you in part. But there's a lot of great people that are born again and spirit filled. I mean,
I'm not saying everyone. I'm just saying from my own personal
experience. With a broad brush. I get it.
From my own personal experiences, I feel like there's some very hypocritical, judgmental people that I've experienced personally that rub me the wrong way.
And look, I agree with you. I've experienced them in the church too. I'm right. I get it. I totally get it. They will know you're my disciples by the way you backbite and pick and lie and accuse and sin. No, they'll know you're my disciples by the love you have for each other. And if there's not love, run to the nearest exit.
No.
If there's that type of judgmental nonsense going on, and sometimes you've got to have tough love, obviously. But you know what? I mean, love triumphs over everything. It's love is the deal. Love is the fruit of the Spirit. And if it's not there, find some other place. Love is everything. Love is the calling card of the Lord. He loves us. And, he loves me so I can love you. Do I do it perfectly? Of course not. Nobody does. But we keep getting up and we keep trying. And when we're wrong, we admit it. That's it. Anyway, it's 45 minutes in. I got to get going soon. So I'm going to give you another 5 minutes and then I'm going to leave. Okay?
No, that's fine. You want to talk about your newest videos?
Yeah, the Roswell videos are really cool. We were actually Exoneration. You can go to our streaming site, streaming.lamarzulli.net. We actually have 8 films on the whole UFO phenomenon, which I talked about earlier. And Roswell's a deep dive. We went to the debris field. How many people do that? So we go to the debris field and we've got Frank Himbler with a metal detector. Lo and behold, he gets a hit. We go over, it's all on film. It's in the film. Okay. And he's digging down with a little garden shovel. Sure enough, we found 2 pieces of metal. We had the metal tested. Guess what? The isotopic ratio, not found here. What's that doing in the debris field? Buried 6 to 8 inches below the surface. And you can see it on film. We wash it off. It's been buried a long, long time. And we had it analyzed. What are you waiting for? You can go to our streaming site for the price, less than the price of a Starbucks cup of coffee. You can watch the film. Streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net. And there are 28 films to choose from, 13 and a half books. Check it out.
I'll make sure to include those links in the show notes for everyone listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate you coming on here and talking with me tonight. It's been a pleasure. I've heard you several different times on different podcasts and everything, and someone reached out to me and asked me to get you on the show, so I said I would reach out to you. So
here we are.
So any of the listeners out there, hey, if you have someone specific you want me to try and get a hold of, just let me know because I'll do it. But no, LA, I definitely appreciate you coming on here, talking with me. Like I said, it's been a pleasure, been very eye-opening, and I definitely appreciate you and everything you do.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. Take care.
Yep, you have a good night. Thank you. Remember, the truth lies in the stories we share, the connections we make. Stay curious, stay open-minded. Thank you all for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep exploring the unknown. Good night, everyone.